Hey guys. Well, yeah, sorry I haven't been on in the last couple of weeks. I've been very, very busy. But I'm glad I actually was on this one. Kim, that was what with what I saw. I only saw the second part of it, but it was very it was awesome. I really liked those that game at the end too was pretty cool. For the wraparounds too. Um, One of the things I would say with hitting, I think that they ended up going. I don't know if you guys have touched on it. They ended up going too old for these kids. They moved it up to Bantam, which I think that they are too big and too strong, too many different heights. And if it was still at the major Pee Wee, that's kind of you're a little bit more Gumby uh, around that age compared to getting into the Bantam ages. Um, so that would be kind of my thing. And then when Kim was talking about obviously understanding coming into the hit of where the stick is, because you always a lot of kids are just going for the hit rather than coming in with a plan. And if you're able to come in with a plan, and your objective is not to murder the person. Your objective is to separate the man from the body and understand that, having respect for the game and the respect for your opponents is huge in this game. And sure, it's great to have a big hit and everything, but the outcome should be to get that puck. So that would be kind of my thing. And yeah, I ran a hitting clinic for the Toronto Titans a couple weeks ago, and yeah, there's a it was kind of amazing going back and kind of paying attention to kind of how I ended up following through with hits. And a lot of people, one thing that I've really um, took away from watching my hits and kind of going through the motions and was basically, instead of ending, a lot of people end the hit at the body, and the one thing that I ended up ending the hit 3 feet behind. It's all about that explosion. So if you're exploding to hit the guy and end your hit at the guy, you're not going to get as a big of an explosion if you're trying to hit him 3 feet back. So that would be kind of my thing in the whole kind of explosion. I ended up going and hammering 6'5" guys. I'm 5'9", so there's a reason why I was doing it, and it's basically it's being compact and it's being able to explode at the right time and being able to follow through and to, like I said, to go and hit them to and through them.
Mike, I want to intervene. I don't mean to be a devil's advocate, but I'm going to be. Uh, Having been in the female game a long time and watching the NHL game, uh, I don't think there's any hitting. The word hitting
Mm-hmm.
implies intimidation. So
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt that officiating and coaches have to consider the degree of force and the intention. So at all our checking clinics, the puck and possession precedes the physicality, but it's a part of it. And back in the day when we were asked to prepare a video in the late 70s and early 80s for respect in sport, hitting was causing insurance rates to go up. So on the female side, there is no hitting, body contact. And you know what? I watched the male game, and there is a really respectful degree of physicality. They're not
Mm-hmm.
running each other. And I would like to take the term hitting out. And when I do checking clinics for Hockey Canada and Hockey Alberta, I think body checking has gone the way of the dodo bird because you take yourself out of position. They're so quick, so skilled, agile, ability to change directions and sense actually set you up for an escape. Uh, the game is changing. It's really changing. So I think the mindset of guys and guys hockey, um, it's something that inhibits their development in terms of their awareness, their consciousness, overcoming the fear of being hit. Um, and I'm curious, Dominic, you're on. You coach in the AHL, you played pro, you're coaching a prep team, a guys team, and girls teams. Do you have any comments on the physicality aspect with your guys and the girls and what I've said?
Yeah, no, my perspective is maybe a little bit different from the standpoint. I played half of my career in North America and then went over to Europe and played. And, just the definition at the time was a little bit different from, in the American League till going over there in such that, we would finish your hit. Someone would move the puck and you would finish your hit. And, it was a bit of a joke amongst the import players is like guys were never ready to receive a hit. And so the yard sale every time you hit them and you're just like, you're just like, oh, I'm going to blow this guy up. But, on the other side of it was, just the way they officiated it. And at the time we were, initially we were like, well, this is a joke. Like I was in Switzerland. You're just like, oh, these guys don't know how to play and yada, yada, yada. And then we went and played like against the Swedes, and we went and played against the, whether it was the Czechs and or the Russians, and like there'd be teams that we'd play against, and they were going to the tough areas, but they weren't necessarily like finishing checks per se. But we didn't puck, we were, and we had some pretty good players that were playing, and it was like it had to be like a change of mindset for us to be able to kind of compete at that level. And now that was 10 years ago or whatever else have you. And now fast forward to like the American League and the way that we would teach there as well. And you would see like you would have guys that would try to run around or try to like be physical and finish checks, and it just doesn't really translate, especially you go to the next level and it seems like you're like, oh, there's no checking. It's like guys are so smart and so fast to be able to draw guys in, to be able to, so you don't really want to take yourself out of position. And we would talk about keeping your edges and staying on your edges to be able to beat guys back up the ice. And Mike, I'm sure you played longer than I have, but it was like it's all about beating that guy back up the ice. And it's like to be able to keep your edges and to be able to you want a pressure to get him to move it, but to be able to kind of skate through. And that was the thing. Like we literally were instructing guys not to quote unquote finish hits, but to be able to, you've got stick on puck and stepping through, but to be able to just basically just constantly keeping, there's almost like a penalty kill back. I remember watching, back in the day, you have guys that were really good in the penalty kill, and they were always, keeping their movement. But that's kind of the philosophy of 5-on-5 now, is you're not coming on a straight line trying to decapitate somebody. Now, there's the odd guy for sure that there's that element. You think of, certain guys that are able to do that, but I would say overall, from my side of things, it's about keeping edges and keeping, being able to keep pushing, guys to the outside. And if you're just going straight and just trying to make contact for the sake thereof, it's almost like you're putting yourself out of the play. And so, from my side of things, I agree with Kim. Found it very interesting just talking about the initiating contact from my side. That's, the biggest thing. They always like they're the one, they can all skate well, but they're always like trying to get away from it and not want to have that, initiate that contact, you say. So I thought, some of those drills, I'm definitely going to be using those with, some of the girls I have. But from my side, it's just been such a shift and a change, on the men's side, especially, and just a quick story, just as far as, so I coach high school age kids, and we were playing in this state championship down in Southern California, and the ref came up to me and said, "Hey, we're going to let him play today." And in my head, I was thinking, what the hell does that even mean? Like, that just means you're going to forget to call the rule book. And so, sure enough, we were a top ranked. We were the first seed or one of the top seeds, and this team had barely gotten in. But like the late hits, the like no play, like hitting when there was no play on the puck, and so now all of a sudden my players are like what's going on? Like, we haven't played this way the whole year, and I think there's initiative here in the States. It's maybe like a fair play initiative. I'm not sure if that's exactly the term, where it has to be like a play on the puck, has to be stick on puck, and if the puck leaves and there's contact made, then it's the penalty. And so it was almost like it was a close game. I think we beat them. I don't even know, over the course of the year, I don't think it was less than 3 goals. And now it was like went to overtime because our players were literally like, it was just a totally different game. And then we got to the final, and they said, hey, I guess the powers that be came in and just said, like, we need to call it the way that this this USA Hockey Initiative is, as far as stick on puck and whatever else have you. And the game was again totally different, because now players weren't afraid of getting railroaded 2 seconds after the puck left, and they were actually making plays with the puck and everything else. So just by 2 cents, but yeah, it's definitely interesting topic.
We've got a few hands up. I'm going to sort of the order. I'd like Mike to respond first, and then I think we have Al and Dave with their hands up. So Mike, please.
Yeah, like obviously there's obviously when I was saying hitting, I wasn't obviously I should change it to checking or finishing the body type thing. Obviously, when I was explaining about going to and through the guy, it's you never want to go and put yourself in a position that you're going for obviously puck first, then body second, and that's how it should be. But there are, I'm going to say, why haven't the Leafs done well in playoffs? It's because they're a regular season. Well, like, first of all, I want to say that Toronto Maple Leaf fans, I call them next year fans. They'll be good next year. But because they're built as a regular season team. They're not built as a playoff team. With every single round, obviously with playoffs has a different energy. It has a different different mindset. And I used to get chills going into the rinks the first game day of the playoffs. It was insane. Different beast. And even in youth hockey, you could see the kids, like, it's a different animal when you go in there. But it's tough. That's one of the toughest things. There's way more hits in playoffs, and there's way more battles, and it's way more intense. So it's a different mindset. Obviously, hitting's in playoffs, it's going to be a lot more of body checking and stuff like that. But yeah, I just wanted, my main point of this was I just didn't, like, it's finishing the check first, finishing the check to get the rule change in the NHL playoffs. Who said that?
I did. You're absolutely right. Teams are preparing to qualify in the NHL, and the rules change in the playoffs. It's not the same game.
Well, they let it go. They let it go. Like
Yep.
Obviously, like, and I've seen it actually in playoffs in youth hockey right now. I've seen refs understanding that with every single call they make, it's magnified that much more in the playoffs. So I've been to multiple games, and through the GTHL, through OMHA, I've been to a whole bunch of playoff games, and the refs kind of don't call as much. So yeah, to be honest, that's the way it should be. As long as anybody's not getting harmed, and they're playing it safe, yeah, for sure. I think that's what makes our game amazing, and that's why the Stanley Cup is the toughest cup in the world to win.
Well, I'm really curious because this was a presentation on physicality in the female game, and I've always said the game is looking more and more like the female game, and I'm saying that in a positive way. It's hockey. It's a good thing.
Mhm.
That degree of physicality and contact, it's a guy thing. And I have no issues with it, but I wasn't one of those kind of players who would intimidate, and I probably wouldn't get through around to the playoffs, let alone get to them. But I think the idea here is we're worried about the nature of the game and the evolution of the game in terms of the health and welfare and respect young players have when they play it. And the role modeling that we want to emulate with our young players and how to teach them, I think it's changed. The USA hockey rules, if you don't go stick on puck primarily, you'll be given a penalty. That's on the guy's side. So the reason for that, just as it was in the late 70s when we did the Respect in Sport Clinic, which had a chapter on playing the danger zone and respect, protecting puck, and taking hits and checks and keeping your feet moving. What we were doing then is what I think we're doing now. And it's not just Kim's presentation with girls only. I've watched a couple other presentations, and Daryl Belfry in particular. Their minds, the offensive players' minds, are operating at a different speed than the players with the defensive orientation in their head first. Like they don't teach defense first anymore; it's offense first, and I agree with that totally. So, Al Ramsey.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what Dominic was talking about. With respect to the USA hockey program, I mean, I think the way that they're defining it now is like they've tried to clarify body contact versus body checking, and body checking being stick on puck, shoulder to shoulder, no finishing checks after the puck is left. Not trying to blow a guy up with your stick in the air, that kind of thing. It has to be a play on the puck, and the body contact is not that far off when they talk about body contact. Like what I see go on in our Atom games, or here they call them squirts, is not that different than the types of contact, like 90% of the contact that you see in like an NCAA game. They're still protecting the puck with their body. They're still initiating contact. They can still play through the hands of the kids. They can still, go shoulder to shoulder, as long as they're not like intentionally trying to, blow the kid up. They'll let most of that go, right? So that's why it's and they're when we give the level 1 and 2 and 3 CEP presentations and stuff for the coaching education, we're talking about that type of stuff starting as young as U6. Like whenever the kids start, that should be initiated, right? So we put them into one-on-one situations like Kim was showing, where they've got to be able to protect the puck and they've got to be able to, play through a kid's hands or whatever. So I think that's where they're trying to go, and that's why the stuff that Kim was showing I thought was fantastic for youth hockey. I think you're on mute, Wally.
Dave Barrett.
Hey guys, since I hope we're talking about the women's game still a little bit. I like to look at it as when I finished playing college hockey in the late '80s, I went into a really good men's league, and there was a lot of rubbing out, and certainly a lot of containment, angling, body contact in front of the nets, but there was no open ice checking. Nobody got finished into the wall. But all of the players were all ex-pros and ex-college players and knew how to play the game, knew how to use their bodies, but didn't open ice hit anybody. In the playoffs, it still was physical hockey, but nothing with hitting per se. And when I look at, I think where the women's game is evolving to and what Kim is advocating for here is just being much more appreciative of how you can use your physicality both on offense and defense without actually hitting people. And I look at the game, certainly when I coached women's hockey, was about letting them appreciate that the contact in the game can be done in a productive manner, in a safe manner, without losing defensive positioning if you're on the defensive side, and on the offensive side, just getting comfortable with being physical in your play without having the open ice hitting. And, you know, when I thought about it, I always thought about like how I played when I was 27 in a men's league, not how I play now that I'm 59 in a men's league. If I bump into someone, it hurts too much. But, you know, there's some body contact that goes on out there. It's just not open ice hitting.